Hey everybody, hope you're having a great day so far. I'm going to get my screen to share with everyone. Alrighty. Let's make sure everything's working good. Okay. So this past week, we've been learning about actually the World War II and the different things that go along with that. So in the 6th grade, we want you guys to learn about World War II and the participants of it. So last week, we actually learned about the Axis and the Allied powers and how those two played major roles into World War II. So today, our focus will be on the Holocaust. As you can remember, we talked about how, America, we were coming out of the Great Depression, and a lot of people always say how to get out of, economic unrest is to go into war because that brings in a lot of jobs, brings in, people are needed places where they weren't before. So today we're going to be learning about Hitler and the Holocaust and what a dictatorship is. So I want you guys to be thinking in your brains, have I ever heard of Adolf Hitler? Have I ever heard of something called a concentration camp? Have I ever heard of what a dictatorship is? So I want you guys to think about those things while we are doing this, okay? So since we were doing this virtually, you have assigned partners. You have that list in your Google Classroom. You know who your partner is. We've been doing this a lot. So I want you guys to go into the chat box and message your partner. I want you to answer these questions to your partner, okay? So one of you can ask it, the other one can answer it, vice versa. So the first question is, what is the Holocaust? You may not have any idea. You may know exactly what the Holocaust is, but I want you to tell me what you think it is. Tell your partner what you think it is. Give you a little bit of time to do that. All right, once you've done that, please raise your hand. Do the raise your hand. All right, perfect, thank you. Okay, so now you're gonna do, what do you know about concentration camps? I want to know what you know about concentration camps. If you don't know anything, just say, I don't know. If you know a lot about it, I want you to tell me. So I want you guys to now, instead of talking to your partner, say that to me. Thank you. Good job, guys. All right, next question. What is a dictatorship? To your partner, what is a dictatorship? Raise your hand whenever you're finished. Okay, perfect, guys. Thank you. What is a dictatorship? All right, we're going to watch a video on that, okay? All right, guys, I want you to write that definition down. So a dictatorship is a form of government in which one person or a small group has absolute power over a country. So in the Holocaust, Adolf Hitler was a dictator. A dictator is the one person or the small group who has absolute power over a country. Adolf Hitler had so much control that he controlled the media, he controlled everyday lives of people, he controlled religion, and he controlled the military. Okay, so now I am going to read you a first-hand account of what it was like to be a Jew in the Holocaust. The Holocaust was definitely one of the darkest times, I think, in all of the world's history. Jews were persecuted, they were oppressed by the Germans and the Nazis, with Adolf Hitler as the dictator. They killed them just because they were Jews. There were religious differences and there were grudges being held against people. And just because someone worshiped differently, they were killed. So I am going to read this to you guys. It's from the Anne Frank diary. Anne Frank was a Jew. She was a teenager during the Holocaust. And I have read this book through and through. You can definitely tell by the pages, but I want you guys to hear what she has to say. Saturday, July 11th, 1942. Dear Kitty, Daddy, Mommy, and Margot can't get used to the sound of the Western Torin clock yet, which tells us the time every quarter of an hour. I can. I loved it from the start, and especially in the night, it's like a faithful friend. I expect you'll be interested to hear what it feels like to disappear. Well, all I can say is that I don't know myself yet. I don't think I shall ever feel really at home in this house, but that does not mean that I loathe it here. It is more like being on vacation in a very peculiar boarding house. Rather a mad idea, perhaps, but that is how it strikes me. The secret annex is an ideal hiding place. Although it leans to one side and is damp, you'd never find such a comfortable hiding place anywhere in Amsterdam. No, perhaps not even in the whole of Holland. So before we go on, I want you guys to realize she's in hiding. Her family didn't get picked up to go to a concentration camp, right? So they were able to get into hiding before they had to go to a concentration camp. A concentration camp, remember that word from earlier? What is a concentration camp? Concentration camps are where Jews were taken to ultimately be killed and were put to work in very, very grave conditions. And it was inhumane how they were treated, meaning that they were not treated like humans. They were treated more like animals. So right now she's in hiding. Now let's still listen. Our little room looked very bare at first with nothing on the walls. But thanks to Daddy, who had brought my film star collection and picture postcards on beforehand, and with the aid of paste, pot, and brush, I have transformed the walls into one gigantic picture. This makes it look more cheerful, and when the Van Dans come, we'll get some wood from the attic and make a few little cupboards for the walls and other odds and ends to make it look very lively. Margot and Mummy are a little bit better now. Mummy felt well enough to cook some soup for the first time yesterday, but then forgot all about it while she was downstairs talking, so the peas were burned to a cinder and utterly refused to leave the pan. Mr. Kufus has brought me a book called Young People's Annual. The four of us went to the private office yesterday evening and turned on the radio. I was so terribly frightened that someone might hear it and that I simply begged Daddy to come upstairs with me. Why do you think she would be frightened that someone might hear her? I want you to put it in the chat box. I want you to answer. Why do you think that she would be frightened that someone might hear her? We are very nervous in other ways too. We made curtains straight away on the first day. Really, one can hardly call them curtains. They are just light, loose strips of material, all different shapes, quality, and pattern, which Daddy and I sewed together in a most unprofessional way. These works of art are fixed in position with drawing pins, not to come down until we emerge from here. There are some large business premises on the right of us, and on the left a furniture workshop. There is no one there after working hours, but even so, sounds could travel through the walls. We have forbidden Margot to cough at night, although she has a bad cold, and make her swallow large doses of codeine. I'm looking for Tuesday when the Van Dans arrive. It will be much more fun and not so quiet. It is the silence that frightens me so in the evenings and at night. I wish like anything that one of our protectors could sleep here at night. So they're protectors that she's talking about. These are the people that during the day are workers at these workshops and are like connected in with the secret annex they live in, and they are the ones that help them stay safe and help them stay hidden. I can't tell you how oppressive it is never to be able to go outdoors. Also, I'm very afraid that we shall be discovered and be shot. That is not exactly a pleasant prospect. We have to whisper and tread lightly during the day. Otherwise, the people in the warehouse might hear us. Someone is calling me. Yours, Anne. Okay. So she was about your guys' age at this point in time. How do you think you would feel if you had to go into hiding? Yeah, bad, right? You'd feel scared. You wouldn't know what tomorrow would bring. Yeah, I agree. I think I'd be scared too. So here is a video I want to show you guys that explains a day in the secret annex. Secret annex. Okay, so again, and Frank's family, like I said, they were able to get into hiding before they were taken to a concentration camp. So they were actually lucky. This is the sad reality that they were lucky, even though they were in hiding and couldn't go outside. They were able to live longer than they should have. So next, I want you guys, you're going to be working as partners to do this. So what you're going to need to do is open up Google Classroom, and you can write all this down. I'm telling you, and you're going to use your Chromebook. On Google Classroom, I have the WebQuest handout. You are more than welcome to print it off if you want to. You're more than welcome to type on it and then submit it into Google Classroom that way. It's up to you. So what you're going to do is you're going to come back into this specific PowerPoint, which I will have uploaded into Google Classroom. You're going to press this link right here. It's a live link, meaning it's going to work. So you're going to press it. It's going to take you to said it was going to work. It's going to take you to this World War II, the Holocaust year by year by the BBC. So what I have is I have a timeline made out for you through this web quest. And you know how we're making a timeline of World War II as a class together. I want you to make your own timeline right now with your partner. So you're going to go through here, make a timeline, maybe write down some, like one fact from each year if you want to, maybe two. It's up to you. But anyways, yeah, so you're going to be making your own. If you have any questions, let me know. If your partner isn't working with you, let me know. We can figure something out with that. And next, I want to read you some quotes from Michael Borenstein. He is one of 52 children that survived the Auschwitz concentration camp. He said, speaking out is more rewarding than staying silent. The Holocaust did not start by killing millions of Jews. It started by making jokes about Jews. Learn from the past and be part of the generation that ends bullying and bigotry. So what I want you guys to realize is the Holocaust didn't start by one person just killing a Jew. It didn't start that way. It started by them persecuting others. Persecuting means that you go out of your way to it's basically bullying, right? Just in a further extent. So these people were making jokes about Jews, and unfortunately in our society and in our culture today, we have unfortunately seen a lot of racism, and that racism comes from making jokes and from not accepting others. And I think that Michael Borenstein's first one right here says a lot. Speaking out is more rewarding than staying silent. So speak out against bullying. Speak out against those people that make jokes. You need to learn from the past, meaning learn from the Holocaust. You got to learn from the past. It may not have even been in our country, but you should still learn from the past mistakes that other people have made and be a part of the generation that ends bullying altogether. So this next part, how will you accept others in your community? How will you accept somebody that's different than you? Maybe somebody speaks a different language. Maybe they are from a different culture. Maybe they have a different religion. Maybe they are an immigrant. Maybe, they weren't raised here and they're nothing like you. I want you to write in your writing journals 3 paragraphs about how you're going to accept others in your community. After learning about the Holocaust and after learning that the Holocaust didn't start with somebody just shooting a Jew, but it started with racism and people making jokes about Jews. I want you guys to realize that what you say does matter. How you act towards other people does matter. And I want you guys to be a part of the generation that does change something, right? After you guys have written that, tomorrow we're going to come back and we are going to discuss, every single person is going to discuss how they can accept other people in their community. So again, if you guys have any types of questions, you can email me at any time. I hope that you have a great day. I hope that you learned a lot. I'm so excited to see and hear about how you are going to take what you learned about the Holocaust and impact the world that we live in today. So hope you guys have a great day. Bye. Okay, so how I worked with ELLs in this specific lesson was I allowed partners to work together. I also allowed typing because this is a virtual lesson. I'm actually in quarantine. So it kind of, happens. But I allowed students to work as partners in typing. Typing helps a lot of ELLs because they're not having to sit and write. They see the letters, they're able to type it out and say what they need to say. They're not having to focus on writing the letters, which sometimes takes a little bit for ELLs. Also allowing for open discussion. A lot of times open discussion allows for kids to see like, oh, they have the same idea I do. That means that I'm not alone in my thinking. And sometimes ELLs can feel like they're alone because they don't speak the language that everybody else does. They have a harder time having confidence speaking in front of people. Sometimes they think, oh no, I'm going to say something wrong. So open discussion helps with that. I addressed issues of diversity and culture in this lesson by bringing in what we are seeing today with racism, systemic racism in our country, to what happened in the Holocaust. Some people may say it's not as severe, but I think it's still in the same spectrum in the fact that there's people dying from racism, from hatred towards a certain group of people. So Jews weren't treated as equal. We understand and we can see that African American and Asian American men and women are not treated as equal in this country. So that's how I did that. I also asked students to take part in saying how they are going to accept others in their community. So that's taking it a step further, saying, okay, we see this as a problem. How are you going to help change it? You are a part of the generation that's going to have to help change it if we're going to want to get anywhere. I integrated worksheets, children's literature, such as the Anne Frank Diary. I'm not joking. I've had this thing for 10 years now, and it's coming apart. I think that as sixth grade students, they can learn about the Holocaust, and they can use the Anne Frank Diary to learn about what it was actually like to be a Jew. I talked about diversity, culture, immigration. I used technology. Using technology, we have the means to meet online. Thankfully we have the means to do that. Google Classroom, mentioning that kids, it's crazy how first graders can even use Google Classroom. Science and math. One thing that I mentioned was the timeline. So with this lesson, as a full group, we would be making a timeline of all of the major events of World War II. So students would need to understand that 1933 comes before 1942, or 1939 comes before 1945. Comparing numbers, seeing where they fit in the timeline, as well as looking at numbers of Jews that passed away through the Holocaust. Also allowing students to have journal entries that deals with ELA and allows for writing. I think that there's a lot to be said about using a writing journal, because at the beginning of the year, students may not have the means to write in a specific order, and they have no idea what they're doing. There's no structure to it. And then by the end of the year, they actually can form thoughts and put it in order. And so writing journals help tremendously with that. Students can see how far they've come. It's a great way to assess students straight on. Again, with assessing, there's informal assessment, and formal assessment. At the end of this lesson, there would also be a Google form where students would be answering questions about the Holocaust that we had just gone over. So specifically about Adolf Hitler, what a dictatorship is, how many Jews were in hiding, what it meant to go into hiding, question about Anne Frank, question about the secret annex. And for ELLs, or for students that had diverse needs, instead of there being 4 answer choices, there would be 2. Instead of the questions being worded with tier 3, tier 2 words, it would be tier 1 words instead. So again, I really hope I get to use this lesson maybe in the future if I get placed in a 5th or 6th grade classroom, but I do know that this lesson needs to be taught. I don't know by who. And if you're watching this, maybe you can, maybe you can use this lesson for your own classroom and for the better good. But yeah, hope everybody has a great night.